Hello and welcome to TCS. Take center stage and own it. This is a personal, professional, and business development platform. We're so excited to be here today. My name is Marisa Bludart, and I am your host. We're focused today on DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, and what matters most. Taking center stage and owning it with me is Dr. Madeline Lewis, our key topic speaker today, Jacqueline, Robert Gatewood, and Sabine, our international real estate broker. She is in the house. And we're going to tie this all together. So, Dr. Lewis, take us on in DEI.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. And Marissa, thank you for opening up this platform for this topic. Really appreciate you. DEI, as we all know, has been a subject. And when I say DEI, I'm talking about diversity, equity, and inclusion, has been in the headlines for several months now, and it's just the topic is just getting hotter and hotter, and the concern around it is just overwhelming. People are really some are upset, some are confused. They don't know what to do. They don't know where to turn, trying to figure this thing out. So just want to talk a little bit about it today and kind of get everybody's input on in the direction that you all are going and what your thoughts are on it. But just to give a little bit about diversity, equity, and inclusion, as I said, it's a hot topic right now. And it's really one of those things that it's an initiative, and it's not just buzzwords, and that's why when I say people are concerned about it, they're confused about it, but it represents um, essential strategies that can create a fair workplace and improve overall business performance. And so you want to have an organization that looks like the people in the world. You don't want everybody to look the same. And you want to be yes, you want to have the premise is to have fair and equality, when you're hiring, the hiring practices and different things like that. And you want to embrace the uniqueness of every individual. So you want to make sure that there's equal opportunities for everybody, and you want to foster an inclusive environment. And that is what I think people are afraid that organizations will get away from, because now we're hearing about all these organizations that's pulling out of those initiatives. So just like I said, want to start the topic off and just talk about what it means to have DEI in your organizations, and why it matters. That's why I think we're kind of here today. If anybody want to jump in, Jacqueline, I could just see it all over your face. You're just bursting to tell us what your thoughts are. So jump right in and just tell me what your thoughts are on this, and how do you feel about it?
Okay. Thank you so much. Appreciate being here. Thank you, Marisa, TCS Consulting. And thank you so much, Dr. Madeline, for even bringing this topic. So just to kind of give a little bit of where my mindset is coming from. After 40 plus years in global high tech and engineering at the C-suite level, now I empower, as retired from there in corporate, I empower C-suite women. And I do try to focus on global women in high-tech leadership to help to unlock their potential, harmonizing their innovation in the frameworks that they learn to use. So why does DEI really play into all of this? Well, one, it fosters creativity and innovation. For whatever reason, this is not just about a race or a gender. This is really about fostering innovation and creativity. And I took a little note, Dr. Madeline, when you said everyone's uniqueness. And so if we're going to tap into everyone's uniqueness, we have to have leaders at the C-suite that understand the whole picture of DEI. What's the impact? Well, the impact is that companies with diverse leadership are
Mhm.
more likely to create products and services and
Yes.
strategies that appeal to a broader customer base. This is
Absolutely.
about shareholder value. It's
Mhm.
not just about reaction and emotion and people saying, "Oh, we need to do away with that because it's unfair." But what we really do with a diverse workforce is we set the stage to increase a competitive advantage in the marketplace if we're really understanding the whole picture of DEI. And there's quite a few studies out there. Right now in 2025, there was a study by Corn Ferry, I believe, and I know the Global Black Forum did the same study, but they kind of came out with the same, I'm going to say, thoughts and results that they found that the companies that they looked at, those companies that actively engaged in DEI from a holistic perspective, they
Right.
had a greater innovation advantage and they had more successful execution of their ideas that went to market.
Absolutely.
So this really suggests that technology could be somewhat hampered if we are not going to look at the diversity. And I'm just talking about one sector of the business world, but it affects others areas as well. But of course, my background is technology, and I really see an impact, as do some of the other experts. That was actually published in Market Watch in January, I believe.
And so
Absolutely.
that all goes right back to POS and what I talked about backstage before we got here. And it's
Yes.
on every level. POS is every level. And ultimately, your shareholders, that's always overlooked, is your
Mhm.
work capital, your human capital, your people. They're shareholders too, because they're looking at the performance. They're looking at, when I go to work, do I have to worry about the company for me or is the company against me? And that's what DEI really dealt with. It gave people an unconscious sense of security. Because when an individual feels secure and safe, you can unlock and unleash their unlimited potential. And that is not a cliche, that is the God's honest truth. If
Absolutely.
I am not worried about my job and I
Mhm.
feel good about what I work for, I'm going to
Mhm.
show up and I'm going to show out because I
Absolutely.
love my company and
Mhm.
I want to represent them well. So I'm going to increase, not decrease, my performance. So
Absolutely.
this is no game. It is truth. It goes back to EI, emotional intelligence. It just encapsulates it all. So my background is psychology. Oh, industrial organizational psychology. I have a heart for the people and how they feel, and then how they perform and how they feel fulfilled. And
Mhm.
when a person feels fulfilled, it's unlimited.
Yes.
And at the end of the day, all of that innovation comes from an
Mhm.
unleashed sense of freedom to create, to procreate. And that's why that's so important. So I I'll digress, Dr. Lewis, because you in charge
And
here.
and 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 then I want Robert to tell us his thoughts too. But I just want to say also, based on what you were saying, and also you too, Jackie, it starts with leadership too in an organization. The leaders have to make sure, like you said, you don't want to feel unsafe or worry about your job, and it's the leaders of the organization's responsibility to make sure that they play a critical role in all of this. They set the tone for the inclusivity. I think I'm pronouncing
Yeah,
that right.
right.
Because they're the ones that can drive the change of an organization. So if they don't, come on board with it, if they're not for it, then it's not going to happen. And as you pointed out, also, Jackie, they if the organizations, if they have this in place, then it's a formula for success for their organizations. It really is. So I mean,
And leaders set the culture and the climate
absolutely,
on every
absolutely.
level. So at
Hmm.
whatever is associated or linked to that leadership and
Hmm.
that leadership role and position, they set a culture, right? And a mindset within the organization. So each leader is cultivating a different culture and
Hmm.
mindset.
Hmm.
And sometimes from top leadership all the way down. So that there's an importance of there being a consistency in understanding and interpreting the mission, the vision, the CSR, the corporate
Hmm.
social responsibility of the organization, all
Yes.
of that. But I'm going to be quiet because I was thinking the same thing.
I know,
Robert,
I know we could go on and on about it, but I want to hear from Sabina, and I also want to hear from you, Robert. What do you all think about this? Tell us what your thoughts are on it. Can
yeah, come off mute.
Yeah,
Shall I go first? Robert
Sabina.
is on mute.
You got to come off mute, Robert.
Yeah, you're on mute.
What about now?
There you go.
All right. Well, thanks again, Dr. Madeline and Marissa and other panelists, Jackie and Sabine. I kind of approach this from my own background. I have a background in PR and a
Mhm.
background in political science, and so I look at this malignment of DEI. DEI. It has
Mhm.
been maligned to the point where it's actually a slur.
Yeah.
They use the word DEI like it's a bad word, and they said DEI hire. This must be a DEI person. What that indicates to me is that we're losing the PR battle, because I think part of this leadership and part of this pushback, we have to also inject the fact we have to actually make sure we define what DEI actually is. And so it's hard to make your case. It's hard to advance something when
You don't
majority of the population sees it as a slur or something that to be discarded, something to be denigrated. So, and plus, from a political standpoint, I think unfortunately, the American workers, corporations, and businesses in general have become pawns in a much larger game. Unfortunately, this DEI is part of something that's bigger and much more sinister than the average person has digested. First, we saw it was against the CRT. Then we saw it against the woke movement. Now the DEI. It's just all part of a bigger picture of trying to roll back the gains of marginalized people. So when I look at it, I can't just take it in a vacuum and say this is just about DEI,
Right.
because we know that DEI, there's nothing wrong with DEI. DEI is just about broadening the talent pool. It's making
Exactly.
sure that everybody has the same opportunity. That's
Opportunity.
DEI in a nutshell. What could be wrong or bad about that? I'm going to tell you, if DEI was exactly the way it's been characterized, I'd be against it too. But we know what we're seeing in the media
Absolutely.
is not what DEI represents. That's my
Exactly.
take on it. That's
And
my
and
take.
I think what it is that when they hear DEI, they automatically think that it's to push African Americans into these positions.
Or
That's
unqualified,
the
not just
biggest.
African
That's
Americans.
one of the biggest roles. But
Unqualified.
it's also what they don't fail to understand. It's inclusive, meaning it's for all, everyone, men, women, Hispanics, all everyone. And one of the things that I was listening to this lady the other day, and believe she was a white female, and she was outraged because she said that they don't understand when they talk about getting rid of DEI. She said that you're it's white women are going to suffer too, because before, back in the day, white women could only hold the roles of secretaries. They could not be in these, running an organization, a 500, company, a Fortune 500 company. She said, so, hey, think about what you're doing. It's not just about one group of people that you're trying to get this out of the way so that they won't progress. It's about everybody. And that's where the inclusion comes in. I
Exactly.
think they forget that part.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll
yeah,
just add one
and
more
also
thing.
the protection. So Robert, I'll say this really quick. You said it's a part of disenfranchised people, population of people. So the
Mhm,
same thing about the Me Too movement. So
mhm,
you're getting rid of all of your positioning, even in that. And I just wanted to stick that out when you talk about the Caucasian women and
mhm.
how they came up under the civil rights movement and got their position in so that they could. This also goes back to protecting that money that's associated with the liabilities. And so I just wanted to put that out. Robert, I'm going to
I
digress.
would just add one more point, and that we have to keep driving this point that DEI is not about pushing forward unqualified people.
Right.
And that
Exactly.
has been where we once again we almost losing the PR battle,
Right.
because most DEI programs have a merit based platform in it.
Mhm.
They ensure that the most qualified people are put forward, and that's the part that's never discussed. As a matter of fact, it's as if it doesn't exist. But that goes back to that this dumbing down of America, making sure you put out these talking points. Everything is politicized and polarized, and DEI is just the latest casualty in this particular effort.
Absolutely. Sabina, what are your thoughts on it? Tell us how you feel
Me, it
about
looks like she's taking a lot of notes.
I am actually speechless. I mean, I'm not in the US, I am in the Dominican Republic,
it. Hmm.
but I have worked many years of my life in Germany as an employee in the banking industry. And I don't know why it is still a point if you are Black, if you're a woman, if you're Hispanic, if whatever you are, why does it matter? As we said, that qualification is what counts, and the way you are, the way you treat people. I don't get it. Why do we have this racism stuff in whatever wherever we are, we have that. It's
Yeah.
We are in the year 2024. We should do better. And of
Yeah.
course it's very important to protect people that why ever they need to be protected, and
Absolutely.
to show what they can do, and to get into the positions they deserve, no matter if they're a woman or Black or whatever. I just
And
I don't
that's
have
what
the words
and
for
that's
that.
what Robert was saying. It's
I,
you're looking at the
Right,
most qualified. You're not just
right.
putting and I'm just gonna put it out there, a straight white man in that position just because he is. And the
Exactly.
unfortunate part about that is that 41 of the 50 states have either outlawed or introduced legislation to roll back DEI. And I just want to point out that the District of Columbia and Maryland is not one of them, okay?
All
Just
right.
to let y'all know.
Very good. Just if I can interject, I love what Robert said. There's such a misunderstanding and the level of, I'm going to say, the lack of knowledge
Mhm.
behind DEI and the benefits of it. So, real life story, I had some open positions and I never said a word to recruiting. I never told them we need this, we need that. That's their job. They're just supposed to filter resumes and get qualified people to me. And one of the HR individuals, and this may shock you, but she said, you're probably thinking why I don't have any minorities in there and very few females. I said, no, that didn't cross my mind. I need to get this role filled. She
Mhm.
said, well, the problem is that we can't find any qualified minorities for these jobs. And I asked her, where are you looking?
Looking.
She said, well, we're looking at MIT, we're looking at, and she cited some of the colleges that you're not going to find that level of diversity. And so I asked her, I said, well, did you think about Howard? They have an excellent Howard University. They have an excellent engineering, and you have companies such as Corning and Raytheon, and those companies literally will recruit from there. And so there's this closed mindedness that, oh, I'm going to tell you in the beginning, I can't go find those type of people. One, I didn't tell you to go find anyone other than a qualified individual. But the fact that you had a mindset like that, and you're not even looking, your recruiting isn't even diverse. You're complaining about something that you don't understand.
Right.
And then you're not even diverse in where you look to recruit from. So, Robert, to your point, I think education here is key. And to anyone that is not of the real understanding of what we're talking about here.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yes, yeah. Another
And
thing is too is we're looking at the upcoming generation, and the disconnect is, and I was sharing this with Sabine offline. The disconnect is they haven't had the straight, direct experience of the racism, you know, and all that goes with that. They've not had that, and
they've
in
not had.
our society, even though racism still exists, it doesn't exist that like it did back in the day.
Mhm.
It's
Absolutely.
been such an extended period of time where we've not had that direct racial encounter, other than the violence between the whatever. We've not had that, and so there's a disconnect of why these programs and why these policies actually came into place. And talking about education, Robert and Lulu, it's all about the disconnect of that reality, that why did these things come. And another thing is with Robert, that this is not single-minded, but there is an agenda behind it. If you remove the past, then there
Yeah.
is no today present cause for need of it. But and that is with them taking out what happened in the 60s, in the early establishment of the country, removing that from our history and
Right.
removing that from daily conversation. That's why it's so important. What are you talking to your children about? Are you, when you're driving and you're going on trips, what is your real conversation? Are you teaching them about the history so that they
Yeah.
understand why the present is what it is and how we can move forward? I've always argued that, saying, hey, what is the conversation? Are you talking about designer clothing, designer cars? Are you talking about real life situations and how this thing can shift in a heartbeat is what we're seeing. And so that's why these conversations, and that's why, Dr. Lewis, when you said to me, Jess, I think it was that we could have this conversation, that we're having it today, because these are the conversations that we need to be having. This is what we
Mhm.
need to be making people aware of on
Yeah.
these kind of platforms.
Mhm. Well, the thing of it is, when you say what are they talking about when they're, in the car, would have you, a lot of times they're not, because the
That's it.
kids are in the back on their devices, and the parents driving, or have zoned out or whatever. So they're not having these conversations, which is why it's so easy for them to take it out of the schools, take these different
Mm.
programs out of the schools, so that
And
the,
so,
the kids aren't learning about any of this. And that's the problem with what they're doing, how he's changing the executive orders to eliminate DEI, is the fact that he's saying that it's a discrimination against the civil rights protection and affirmative action. I mean, how do you get that? But if you rewrite it and you constantly tell people that don't really know or don't really discuss it, then guess what? They're going to believe that. That's what they're going to
and the
think. Well,
falsehood,
yeah, let's get rid of it because it's discrimination. It's
right?
discrimination.
Right. And you have a younger generation that's saying, I don't want that. I don't need that to get ahead. And they don't
Mhm.
understand that the very reason their parents are ahead is
It's because
because of these policies and these
right that
laws
was put
being
in
in
place.
place right for them. And so they don't, it's a charge to us. It's a double-edged sword. It's a charge to both us as the, you know, the wise, to make sure that the younger generation, that there is no communication gap, that we work together to communicate effectively. Even at this ninth hour, it's still very important for us to not give up and go quietly
Oh,
into the night, but to speak
absolutely.
up.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We can, because for one thing, I think, and what, you know, I am now telling the clients that I work with is that you really have to, you know, be aware now, even more so, of what's going on. You have to understand what's going on. You have to make sure that you stay up on what's going on. You have to expand what you're doing, because you know they're also getting concerned about their businesses. Because if you are someone who those were your programs that have now been canceled, if you had a contract, say with the federal government, you know all of that's been canceled, and so you now have to figure out what you're going to do to pretty much stay alive, so to speak, if you don't have another way to pivot, you know. And so you have to you have to again be expand, you know your capabilities, look at something else maybe that you might can put forward and continue to do. But you can't let this stop you, but you definitely have to stay on top of what's going on so that you can know and understand it. And again, like I said, be able to continue with your business, but also know that this it's here, and right now we're going to have to deal with it.
We're gonna have to deal with it. And the beautiful thing is, thank God for the way that we elect our presidents, is that we only have to go through this for the 4 years, and then so what we need to happen, what needs to happen is you need to have a strategy and a plan. Be
Strategy,
intentional.
absolutely.
Don't give up, cave in, and quit. It's not time to be
Exactly.
get down to the nitty gritty and say, how do I shift my program so that they're
Yes.
leadership development programs,
Mhm,
so that
mhm.
they're people development programs. So don't give up. Don't get all. You ain't got no time to be crying. You got to encourage yourself, and you got to evaluate, just like you said, your offerings, your services, and rename those things and do some tweaking and adjustment. Because let me tell you
Absolutely.
something. No matter what, communication, influence, leadership roles are to inspire, to empower,
Hmm.
to give vision, strategy,
Yes.
and to motivate and lift up. And so
Hmm.
you can pivot your programs. Just
Right.
pivot your programs to focus on people
Absolutely.
development.
You
Because
know,
like
Mhm.
you said about pivoting your program, sometimes you may focus on one thing, but there are a couple of other things that
Oh
you
my God,
have
there's so much.
within your skills that you can pull out and you can still use to increase your authority in a certain area. And that's now what they have to do. And that's what I've been telling those that are now concerned, because had one individual who was had a contract to go for to provide DEI training, and got a call the day before to tell her it was canceled.
wow.
Yeah, it's canceled. So she's like, "Oh my goodness, what am I going to do?" Well, here's what you now have to start doing. Yeah.
You got to
You
be
know,
ready.
we we talked a little bit about the misconception of DEI, and there's a really important subject that ties together, and that is the integration of AI, artificial intelligence, and the
Hmm.
technologies in DEI. Well,
Hmm.
how do they relate? Well, as companies integrate AI into their operations, there's going to be a growing need for ethical AI deployment that
Hmm.
accounts for diversity, fairness, and inclusion. So,
Yeah.
AI technologies, if not carefully designed, can
Yes.
perpetuate existing biases in hiring,
Absolutely.
promotions, decision making,
Hmm.
disproportionately impacting marginalized groups. So, DEI teams actually have to still continue to say, okay, AI solutions that we are building, and we've got all this diverse data sets.
Hmm.
Okay, how are we going to make sure that we don't further disadvantage or underrepresent employees in groups.
Right.
Last but not least, why does
Yeah,
it
you
matter? Because companies that fail to address bias in AI can actually face reputal damage, regulatory scrutiny, internal pushback from employees, customers,
Hmm. Hmm.
and there's going to be a demand for ethical technology
okay.
practices. All that's DEI, and people better wake up and realize that there's more to this than, oh, that person is a DEI hire and they took my job. I
Hmm.
relish in that I'm definitely not a DEI hire because there was no DEI when I started back in the late 70s.
Yeah.
So I am every position I got. It's just a fact. I worked harder, proved myself more. You know,
Hmm.
I had to do more. Good was not never good enough. I had to be great and I had to be phenomenal. So to
Exactly.
Lisa's point, a lot of what has been the benefit in the later years, I didn't experience those benefits. It was literally my ability, my skills that
Right.
took me to a C-suite level. And even then, you got to hold on to it. You
Yeah.
know, it's just not.
Exactly.
So these things that people are thinking about moving away from, they've got so many bigger impacts. And I loved what everyone said. Robert, I love what you said about just the geopolitical piece of this that
Right.
people are really not looking at.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, I look at when you think about the why people are against DEI, you have to take a look at what DEI actually does.
Hmm.
And when it addresses things like implicit bias, things like correcting historical inequities, things that and there's research that has shown that the people who have been the benefactors of DEI perform on par with other people. There has been no less qualification. There's nothing to prove that people who have benefit from DEI are less qualified. Those
Hmm.
are talking points. Those have political objectives. And so part
Scary.
of my goal of pushing back is to make sure that people understand what it is and offer platforms so that we can have a balanced conversation going on. Right now, it's all one side. It's all about these DEI people. Look at that. We have
Yeah.
the accident up in Baltimore where the ship ran into the bridge, and oh, the black man must have been a DEI hire. We're looking at the first lady, the vice president running for president, probably one of the most qualified
Unbelievable.
in history. Now she's been called a DEI hire. Even if she was a DEI hire, she's the most qualified person. So there
Qualified
must
person.
be more
Yeah.
of a pushback against this narrative that DEI is advocating for all of these unqualified people to take other people's
Exactly.
jobs. It's all political rhetoric.
Exactly. And it's more like said, just to give the qualified ones, the marginalized qualified ones, a chance and an equal opportunity to be able to compete for that position. No one is asking you to give anything,
Yes.
Right.
just asking for a fair opportunity. That's all. That's it. So it's just, and that's why I'm liking this conversation, and because we're hearing so much about it, but a lot of it too, again, like, is scare tactics. You have the things that people don't understand, and a lot of times when they don't understand something, they're afraid of it.
Mhm.
Or and then
Right.
you have the other side where they just, I want this, and too many of them are getting what I want. So
Right.
there you
You
go.
know, I like what Jacqueline said earlier. She was talking about when she was giving the example of people
Mhm.
can't find the talent. Well,
Yeah.
one of the objectives of DEI is to broaden the pool, which means you have to go out and recruit. You can't just go with certain other demographics or expect to find a diverse pool
Exactly.
of candidates. The other
Exactly.
part of the DEI, the inclusion part, is
Mhm.
about making people feel welcoming, and then the equity part is to remove some of these barriers that have
Mhm.
historically kept people from getting in these positions and advancing.
And
Those
absolutely.
are very noble, honorable, and any person with a just and fair mind will see them as needed advances in the workplace and in society. But
Absolutely.
That's not the conversation that we're having. That's not what we're talking about on the nightly news. That's not what the talking heads are talking about. All they're talking about is look at that DEI hire.
Look at
How did that person get there? We have to change the narrative in order for us to advance all that's good about DEI.
And that's exactly like what you were saying, Jacqueline. It's yeah, I remember when I was working with the FBI, and I was actually at the time I was an analyst, and I remember seeing on the website that the FBI had a recruitment team, and I remember thinking, I didn't know we had a recruitment team, and so I went and I inquired about it because, as you know, the FBI was famous for having a lot of white males in the organization. And so when I went to find out about it, I got on the recruitment team. I was able to get on the recruitment team just to see, I wanted to know where they were going to get these people, you know? And it's like you say you're going to colleges. When you put up these recruiting booths at different events, you're telling people, you're going to colleges and different things like that to get people. But like you said, which colleges are you going to? And by doing that, I was able to get on there and kind of like you said, make suggestions. Hey, well, how come we're not going over here? But if you don't, again, too, you can't be afraid of what's going on. You have to jump in, you have to be aware, you have to do your research, and you have to include yourself in the conversation so that you can try and change the narrative.
Amen.
So, yeah. But
Wow.
wow. This is
Well, we know that we have to have this discussion again. We got to keep on having this
we're coming
discussion.
into the end, huh?
Yeah, we have to continue having the conversation and continue to bring awareness. That's what's very important. And so I just want to say thank you to Dr. Lewis for just bringing it up. I know we've all been thinking of it separately. We've all been watching and saying we've just been sitting back, and then you gave us the charge. Not just sit back. Let's really talk about this. And so we will continue this discussion because we want to encourage, not only do we want to encourage, but we also want to educate and equip individuals who are, especially those who do, like you said, they're the small business owners that their business was based on this, this experience and helping their clientele and bringing awareness and training and development and things like that. We want to make sure that they have of encouragement, but not only encouragement to trigger them to think in ways of pivoting, to come up with some ideas or some strategies that they can take and move. And we did do that a little bit today. We tapped into a little bit of that today because DEI is really about leadership, right? And it's about how we're showing up ourselves. And so there can be a pivot for them. This is not the end of all. This is just a something we look at. How do we say it? We got to assess, address, and move forward. And so with that being said, I want to say thank you so very much, Madeline, Dr. Lewis, for charging us with this. And I want to thank you for my Own It team and my TCS team for, not counting it, Robert, coming out and just having a candid conversation in regards to this topic, what matters most in DEI, and really speaking to it. So thank you, ladies and gentlemen. You guys have a great weekend. Those who tuned in, thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure that in our next shows and upcoming shows that you make sure you leave some comments. We want to hear from you so we can respond to you in the audience. So we love you so very much. God bless you. We're out.